They said Omegas were born to serve, born to lower their eyes, born to break under the weight of an alpha's command. But what happens when the wolf they mocked, the woman they spat on, the nanny they thought too weak to even growl back, was never an Omega at all? What if she was something far more ancient, something that could shatter their entire world with a single breath? Stay with me until the very end of this story. You'll never see a twist like this coming. And when you reach the final moment, hit that like button and drop your city in the comments so I know my pack is watching. Bus! The rain fell like nails against the windows of Blackthorn Manor. Celine Ward stood in the entrance hall with her single canvas bag at her feet and mud still clinging to her boots from the long walk through the forest. She did not look up when the front door slammed shut behind her, did not flinch when the sound echoed through the vaulted stone ceiling like a gunshot. The cold air inside the manor pressed against her skin, but she remained still, waiting. A woman appeared at the top of the grand staircase. Luna Mira Vexley, tall, blonde, draped in furs that probably cost more than Celine had earned in her entire life. The Luna descended slowly, each step deliberate, her heels clicking against marble like the ticking of a clock. When she reached the bottom, she stopped 3 feet away and looked Celine up and down with the kind of expression someone might give to a stray dog. "You're late," Luna Mira said. Celine met her gaze for exactly 2 seconds, then lowered her eyes. "The bus broke down outside the border. I walked the rest of the way." "You walked?" Luna Mira's voice dripped with disbelief. "Through rogue territory." "Yes, ma'am." The Luna circled her once, twice, studying, judging. "You're smaller than I expected. Weaker looking, too." She stopped in front of Celine again and tilted her head. "Tell me, Miss Ward, do you know what happens to Omegas who fail in this house?" Celine kept her voice flat. "They get replaced." "No." Luna Mira leaned in close enough that Celine could smell the expensive perfume masking something sharper underneath. Fear, maybe. Or disgust. "They get destroyed, completely. My sons are not ordinary children. They are alpha heirs, future rulers of this territory. If you embarrass them, if you show weakness in front of the pack, if you so much as breathe wrong in their presence, I will personally make sure you never work in another pack again. Do you understand me?" Celine nodded once. "Yes, ma'am." Luna Mira straightened and brushed an invisible speck of dust from her sleeve. "Good. Your quarters are in the east wing, 3rd floor, servants' entrance. You'll meet the heirs tomorrow morning at dawn. Don't be late again." She turned and walked away without another word. Celine stood alone in the entrance hall for a long moment after the Luna disappeared. The manor was silent except for the rain and the distant sound of something heavy being dragged across a floor somewhere above. She picked up her bag and walked toward the narrow staircase tucked behind a tapestry in the corner. The servants' entrance, the one meant for people who didn't matter. Her room was smaller than a closet, a single bed, a cracked mirror, a window that didn't close all the way. She set her bag down and sat on the edge of the mattress. The springs groaned under her weight. She did not unpack, did not lie down. She sat there in the dark and listened to the rain and the wolves howling somewhere deep in the forest beyond the walls. She had been in worse places. Dawn came cold and gray. Celine woke before the sun and dressed in the plain uniform left folded on a chair outside her door. Black pants, white shirt, an apron that smelled faintly of bleach. She braided her dark hair back tight and walked downstairs to the kitchen where the head housekeeper, a stern woman named Iris, handed her a tray without looking at her. "Breakfast for the heirs. Don't spill it. Don't speak unless spoken to. And whatever you do, don't make eye contact." Celine took the tray. "Understood." Iris finally looked at her then. Her eyes were hard. "You won't last a week." Celine said nothing. She carried the tray through the hallways lined with portraits of dead alphas and up another flight of stairs to the 2nd floor where the heirs had their rooms. The doors were massive, dark wood carved with wolves mid-leap. She balanced the tray on one hand and knocked. Silence. She knocked again. The door flew open so hard it slammed against the wall. A boy stood in the doorway. 13 years old. Black hair. Gray eyes that looked too old for his face. Kyle Vexley, the eldest heir by 11 minutes. He stared at her with the kind of expression that said he'd already decided she was beneath him. "You're the new nanny." Not a question, a statement. Yes. He looked her up and down the same way his mother had. Then he smiled. It was not a kind smile. "You look like you'd blow away in a strong wind." Behind him, another voice called out, "Is she here?" A second boy appeared, identical face, same eyes, but something sharper in the way he moved. Ronan Vexley, the younger twin. He stepped around his brother and leaned against the doorframe. "She looks scared." Cale laughed. "She should be." Celine kept her face blank. "Your breakfast." Ronan took the tray from her hands and, without breaking eye contact, turned and dumped the entire thing onto the floor. Eggs, toast, juice, all of it splattered across the hardwood in a mess of broken porcelain and spreading liquid. Then he handed the empty tray back to her. "Oops," he said. Kyle grinned. "You better clean that up before Mother sees." They both stepped back into their room and slammed the door in her face. Celine stood there holding the empty tray. She looked down at the mess, then at the closed door, then back at the mess. She set the tray down, walked back downstairs to the kitchen, found a mop and a bucket, returned to the second floor and cleaned every drop in silence while the twins laughed behind their door. When she finished, she carried the bucket back downstairs and placed it exactly where she found it. Iris watched her from across the kitchen with her arms crossed. "Told you," Iris said. Celine wiped her hands on her apron. "Is there anything else you need me to do?" Iris blinked. "You're serious?" "Yes." For a moment, something almost like respect flickered across the housekeeper's face. Then it was gone. "Fine. Go scrub the training hall. The warriors like to track blood inside." Celine nodded and walked out. The days blurred together. The heirs continued their games. Cale would order her to fetch something from the far side of the manor, only to tell her he didn't need it anymore when she returned. Ronan would spill water on her uniform and laugh when she didn't react. They whispered insults behind her back loud enough for her to hear, called her weak, broken, a waste of space. The other servants watched and said nothing. The warriors smirked when she passed. Even the Omega staff kept their distance, as if her failure might be contagious. Luna Mira observed it all from a distance with cold satisfaction. But Celine never responded, never raised her voice, never showed anger or frustration or pain. She cleaned, she cooked, she followed orders, and every night she returned to her tiny room and sat by the window and listened to the forest. 3 weeks passed. Then one evening, everything shifted. It was tradition in the Blackthorn Pack that every full moon the Alpha held a gathering in the Great Hall. Warriors, elders, high-ranking wolves from across the territory. It was a display of power, a reminder of hierarchy. Celine was assigned to serve drinks during the event. She moved through the crowd like a shadow, refilling glasses, clearing plates, never looking anyone in the eye. The heirs sat at the head table beside their parents. Alpha Theron Vexley was a mountain of a man with scars across his knuckles and a voice that could silence a room. He spoke of borders and strength and blood. The wolves around him howled their approval. Kyle and Ronan watched the crowd with the same cold eyes. They were learning, absorbing, becoming the monsters their father wanted them to be. Celine moved behind their chairs to refill their glasses. Her hand was steady. Her face was blank. But Ronan turned suddenly and his elbow caught the edge of the tray she was holding. The glasses tipped. Wine splashed across the table, across Ronan's shirt, across the Alpha's arm. The hall went silent. Alpha Theron looked down at the wine dripping from his sleeve, then at Celine, then at his son. "She spilled it on me," Ronan said immediately. His voice was calm, practiced. "I didn't touch her." Cale nodded. "I saw it too." The Alpha's eyes narrowed. "Is that true, Omega?" Every gaze in the room turned to Celine. She stood there with the empty tray in her hands and wine dripping from her apron. She could feel the weight of their stares, the judgment, the hunger for her to break. She met the Alpha's gaze. "No, sir." The hall erupted. Wolves snarled. Someone shouted. The Luna stood so fast her chair fell backward, but Alpha Theron raised one hand and the room went silent again. "You're calling my son a liar." Celine's voice did not waver. "I'm saying what happened." Ronan leaned forward with mock innocence. Father, I think she's confused. She's just an Omega. They don't always understand. I understand perfectly, Celine said. Kyle laughed. You've got some nerve. Alpha Theron stood. The sound of his chair scraping against stone was deafening. He walked around the table slowly, stopped in front of Celine, looked down at her like she was an insect. Kneel, he said. Celine did not move. Kneel. His voice was a growl now, a command laced with alpha dominance, the kind that could force submission from any wolf in the territory. Celine felt the pressure slam into her like a physical weight. Her knees buckled, her body screamed at her to obey, but she locked her legs, clenched her jaw, and stayed standing. The alpha's eyes widened, just for a second, just long enough for Celine to see the flicker of confusion. Then his expression hardened. He backhanded her across the face so hard she hit the ground. The hall erupted in laughter. Celine tasted copper, felt the sting spreading across her cheek. She pushed herself up onto her hands and knees. Blood dripped from her split lip onto the stone floor. Know your place, Omega, Alpha Theron said. Then he turned and walked back to his seat. The gathering continued as if nothing had happened. Celine picked up the tray and walked out of the hall with her head down and blood still dripping from her chin. Vox. She did not go back to her room. She walked out the side entrance and into the forest beyond the manor walls. The full moon lit the path between the trees. She walked until she couldn't hear the laughter anymore, until the only sounds were the wind and the distant howl of something wild. She stopped in a clearing, tilted her head back, looked up at the moon. And for the first time in 3 weeks, she let herself feel it. The rage. It burned through her chest like fire, hot and vicious and ancient. She closed her eyes and breathed through it, swallowed it down, buried it deep. Not yet. Not yet. She opened her eyes and turned to walk back toward the manor, but she stopped. Someone was watching her. She scanned the tree line, saw nothing, but the feeling remained, a presence, heavy, dangerous, curious. I know you're there, she said softly. Silence. Then a voice, low, rough, amused. You should have knelt. A figure stepped out from the shadows. A man, tall, broad-shouldered, dark hair, golden eyes that glowed faintly in the moonlight. He wore no pack insignia, no markings, but the way he moved said predator. Celine did not step back. Who are you? The man smiled. Someone who's been watching you for a while now. He tilted his head. You're not what you pretend to be. I don't know what you mean. Yes, you do. He took a step closer. I've seen a lot of Omegas in my life. Broken ones, scared ones, angry ones, but I've never seen one take an alpha's hit and walk away without crying. He stopped a few feet from her. So I'll ask you again. What are you really? Celine held his gaze. None of your business. The man laughed. Fair enough. He turned to leave, then paused. Word of advice. Whatever you're hiding, it won't stay hidden much longer. This pack has enemies, and when they come, the heirs are going to learn exactly what kind of monster they've been tormenting. He disappeared into the trees before she could respond. Celine stood alone in the clearing for a long time. Then she walked back to the manor, back to her tiny room, back to the mask she wore every day. But something had shifted. The wolves of Blackthorn had no idea what was coming, and neither did the heirs who thought they ruled the world. The morning after this gathering, Celine woke before dawn with her cheeks still swollen and a bruise spreading dark purple across her jawbone. She touched it once in the cracked mirror and felt nothing. Not pain, not shame, just the dull throb of damaged tissue reminding her that skin breaks easier than bone. She braided her hair back and put on her uniform and walked downstairs like every other day. The kitchen was empty except for Iris, who looked up from kneading dough and froze when she saw Celine's face. The housekeeper's hand stopped moving. Her mouth opened, then closed. Then she went back to kneading without saying a word. Celine picked up the breakfast tray. Same routine, same stairs, same carved doors. She knocked. This time Kyle opened immediately. He looked at her face and his expression shifted into something that might have been surprise if he weren't so practiced at hiding it. Then he smiled. That same cold smile. Mother wants to see you after breakfast, he said. Guess last night wasn't punishment enough. Ronan appeared behind him. His eyes went straight to the bruise. Damn, Father really got you good. He laughed, but it sounded forced. Maybe next time you'll learn to keep your mouth shut. Celine held out the tray. Neither of them took it. Actually, Kale said slowly, we're not hungry. You can take it back. She stood there holding the tray, waiting. Ronan shifted his weight. Did you hear him? Take it back. Celine turned and walked away without a word. Behind her, she heard one of them say something she couldn't make out. Then the door closed. She returned the tray to the kitchen. Iris looked at her again, this time longer. Luna Mira wants you in the study, Iris said quietly. Now. Celine nodded and walked through the hallways to the west wing where the Luna kept her private office. The door was already open. Luna Mira sat behind a massive oak desk with her hands folded and her face carved from ice. Close the door, she said. Celine did. Sit. There was only one chair, a small wooden thing that looked like it belonged in a schoolroom. Celine sat. Luna Mira studied her for a long moment. Then she leaned back in her chair. You called my son a liar in front of the entire pack. I told the truth. The truth. Luna Mira's laugh was sharp. Let me tell you something about truth, Miss Ward. Truth doesn't matter in this house. What matters is hierarchy, order, respect. My sons are alpha heirs. You are an omega. When they speak, you agree. When they blame you, you accept it. That is how this works. Celine said nothing. My husband showed restraint last night, Luna Mira continued. He could have done much worse, but I convinced him to let you stay. Do you know why? No, ma'am. Because I want to see if you break. The Luna leaned forward. Every omega who has worked in this house eventually breaks. They cry. They beg. They run. And when they do, I make sure everyone knows what happens to wolves who don't know their place. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to continue your duties. You're going to serve my sons without question. And when they test you again, and they will test you, you're going to lower your eyes and thank them for the lesson. Understood? Celine met her gaze. Is there anything else, ma'am? Luna Mira's jaw tightened. Get out! Celine stood and walked out of the study. She could feel the Luna's eyes burning into her back until she turned the corner. The tests came faster after that. Kael would drop things in front of her and watch to see if she'd pick them up. She did, every time. Ronan started speaking to her in commands laced with just enough dominance to make her knees weak. She obeyed, every time. But her face never changed, her hands never shook, and that bothered them more than any rebellion would have. One afternoon, Kael cornered her in the library where she was dusting shelves. Why don't you cry? He asked. Celine kept dusting. I don't have a reason to. My father hit you hard enough to split your face open. That's not a reason? No. He stepped closer, close enough that she could smell the expensive cologne and underneath it the sharper scent of young wolf still learning to control his instincts. You're not normal. I'm just doing my job. No. His voice dropped. You're doing something else. I just haven't figured out what yet. She turned to look at him then. Really look at him. 13 years old and already drowning in the weight of expectations he didn't ask for. Already becoming the kind of alpha who ruled through fear because that's all he'd ever been shown. You should go, she said quietly. Your mother doesn't like you talking to staff. Kael's eyes narrowed. I'll talk to whoever I want. Yes, sir. He stared at her for another moment, then turned and left. Ronan was different. He didn't corner her, didn't ask questions. Instead, he watched. She'd feel his eyes on her during meals, during training sessions when she cleaned the hall, during the evening when she walked through the gardens to empty her head. He was studying her the way wolves study prey before deciding if it's worth the hunt. It made her skin crawl, not because she was afraid, but because she recognized the look. She'd seen it before in mirrors back when she still had a pack, back when she still had a name that meant something. 2 weeks passed. Then the whispers started. It began with the Omega staff. Quiet murmurs in the kitchen about strange things happening near the borders. Rogue wolves found dead with no wounds, just collapsed in the dirt with their eyes still open. The warriors dismissed it as rival pack skirmishes. But the older wolves, the ones who remembered things from before the current alpha took power, they weren't so sure. Celine heard it all and said nothing. She scrubbed floors. She washed laundry. She served meals. And every night she stood by her window and looked out at the forest and felt the pull. That ancient thing inside her that wanted to run, to hunt, to stop pretending. Not yet. One evening, she was carrying linens up to the second floor when she heard voices coming from behind a partially open door. She recognized them immediately. The heirs. She should have kept walking, should have ignored it, but something in Ronan's tone made her stop. "I'm telling you, something's wrong with her," Ronan was saying. "She's just an Omega." Kael's voice, dismissive. "No, she's not. I've been around Omegas my whole life. They smell like submission, like fear. She doesn't smell like anything. So she's good at hiding it. Or she's hiding something else." Silence. Then Kael spoke again. "What are you saying?" "I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out." Celine moved away from the door before they could sense her. She continued up the stairs and delivered the linens and went back to her room. That night, she didn't sleep. She sat by the window and watched the moon and thought about the man in the forest, the one with golden eyes who'd told her she wouldn't stay hidden much longer. He was right. The breaking point came during a training exercise 3 days later. Alpha Theron had organized a demonstration in the main courtyard. All the warriors, all the staff, even some of the lower-ranking wolves from the outer territories. It was meant to be a show of strength, a reminder of Blackthorn's dominance. The heirs were required to participate, to prove they were worthy of their bloodline. Celine stood at the edge of the crowd with the other servants and watched as Kael and Ronan faced off against two of the pack's veteran warriors. The boys were good, fast, brutal. They moved like their father. All violence and precision. The crowd cheered every time they landed a hit. But then something went wrong. One of the warriors, a massive wolf named Gareth, got too aggressive. He swung hard at Ronan and connected with his ribs. The sound of bone cracking echoed across the courtyard. Ronan went down. Kael roared and launched himself at Gareth, but the veteran was twice his size. He caught Kael midair and slammed him into the ground. The crowd went silent. Alpha Theron stood. His face was stone. Enough! But Gareth didn't stop. He had Kael pinned. His hand was around the boy's throat, and his eyes had gone completely black. Not with rage, with something else. Something wrong. Celine felt it before anyone else did. The shift in the air, the wrongness. This wasn't a training accident. This was something deliberate. She moved before she could think. Pushed through the crowd. Crossed the courtyard in seconds. And when Gareth raised his fist to bring it down on Kael's face, she caught his wrist. The entire courtyard froze. Gareth turned his head slowly, looked down at her. A tiny Omega woman holding back a warrior 3 times her size. His lips pulled back in a snarl. "Let go," he growled. Celine's voice was calm, flat. "No." He tried to pull his arm free. Couldn't. His eyes widened. Then he roared and swung his other fist at her head. She ducked, twisted his wrist, and threw him. Not pushed. Threw. Gareth's body flew backward and hit the ground 10 feet away. The crowd erupted. Wolves shouted. Someone screamed. Alpha Theron was moving toward them, but Celine was already kneeling beside Kael. The boy was gasping for air. His throat was bruised. His ribs were cracked. She put one hand on his chest and looked at him. "Breathe," she said quietly. "Slow. In through your nose." Kael's eyes were wide with shock and pain, and something else. Fear. Not of Gareth, of her. Ronan was on his feet now, limping, staring at her like he'd just seen a ghost. "What the hell are you?" Celine didn't answer. She helped Kael sit up. Then she stood and turned to face Alpha Theron, who had reached them. His expression was unreadable. "Explain," he said. "Gareth was going to kill him," Celine said. "I stopped it." "By throwing a full-grown warrior like he weighed nothing." "Yes, sir." The Alpha looked at Gareth, who was climbing to his feet with murder in his eyes, then back at Celine. "You're not an Omega." It wasn't a question. Celine said nothing. Alpha Theron stepped closer, close enough that she could see the scars across his knuckles, close enough to smell the suspicion rolling off him in waves. "I'm going to ask you one time. What are you?" Before she could answer, Gareth lunged. He moved fast, faster than any normal wolf should. His claws were out, his teeth were bared, and his eyes were still black. Not wolf, something else. Celine sidestepped, caught his arm, and brought her knee up into his ribs so hard something inside him shattered. He dropped, gasping, wheezing. She stood over him, and for just a second, just one brief moment, her eyes flashed silver. Every wolf in the courtyard took a step back. The elders at the edge of the crowd began whispering frantically. Lunamira had gone pale, and Kael and Ronan were staring at her like they'd never seen her before. Alpha Theron's voice cut through the chaos. "Take Gareth to the cells now!" Two warriors rushed forward and dragged Gareth away. He was still struggling, still snarling, still not himself. The Alpha turned back to Celine. "My study, now." She followed him through the manor, up the stairs, down the hallway lined with portraits of dead Alphas who seemed to watch her with knowing eyes. He unlocked the door to his private study and gestured for her to enter. She did. He closed the door behind them. For a long moment, he just looked at her. Then he walked to the window and stared out at the forest. "I've been alpha of this pack for 20 years, he said quietly. "In that time, I've fought rogues, rival packs, enemies from territories we've never even heard of. I've seen wolves do things that shouldn't be possible, but I've never seen an Omega throw a warrior twice her size like it was nothing." He turned to face her. "So I'll ask again. What are you?" Celine kept her voice steady. "I'm a nanny. Don't insult me." "I'm not." He crossed the room in 3 strides, grabbed her by the throat, slammed her against the wall. His hand was iron, his eyes were fire. "Tell me the truth or I will rip it out of you." Celine didn't struggle, didn't fight. She looked him straight in the eye and saw the same thing she'd seen in Gareth, that flicker of black, that wrongness. "You're infected," she said. His grip loosened. "What?" "Whatever's killing the rogues, whatever turned Gareth, you have it too. I can smell it on you." Alpha Theron let go, stepped back. "That's impossible." "When did it start? The headaches? The dreams? The feeling like something's crawling under your skin?" His face went blank. "How do you know that?" "Because I've seen it before." Celine straightened her shirt. "In another pack, a long time ago. It starts slow, then it spreads. And when it finishes, there's nothing left but monsters." The Alpha sat down heavily in his chair. "What is it?" "A curse. Old magic. Something that should have died out decades ago." "Can it be stopped?" Celine hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, but not by you." He looked up at her. "Then by who?" She didn't answer. He stood, walked to his desk, pulled out a file, dropped it in front of her. "I had you investigated the day you arrived. Standard procedure for anyone working near my sons. The file came back clean, too clean. No history before 5 years ago. No family, no pack markings, nothing. You're a ghost, Miss Ward." Celine looked down at the file. "I'm careful. No." He leaned forward. "You're hiding. And whatever you're hiding from is big enough that even the best trackers in 3 territories couldn't find a trace of you." He paused. "So here's what's going to happen. You're going to tell me who you really are. And then you're going to tell me how to stop this curse. Or I'm going to lock you in the cells next to Gareth and let my sons figure out what to do with you." Celine met his gaze, held it. Then she spoke. "My name is Celine Ward. That part is true. What's not true is that I'm an Omega. I'm not. I never was." She took a breath. "I'm the last surviving Alpha of the Shadowfang bloodline, the pack your Beta helped destroy 6 years ago." The silence that followed was deafening. Alpha Theron's face went through several emotions at once. Shock, disbelief, recognition, then something that looked almost like fear. "Shadowfang was wiped out," he said slowly. "Every Alpha, every heir, every bloodline wolf. There were no survivors. That's what you were told. Marcus confirmed it himself. He was there. He saw the bodies. He saw what he needed to see." Celine's voice hardened. "Your Beta betrayed my pack because we refused to kneel to Blackthorn. He made a deal with something old, something hungry, and when it was done feeding, he burned what was left and told you there were no survivors. But he was wrong. I survived. And I've spent 6 years learning how to kill the thing he made a deal with. The Alpha stared at her. If that's true, why are you here? Why come to the pack that destroyed yours? Because the curse is spreading. It started with rogues, then it moved to your borders, and now it's inside your walls, inside your warriors, inside you. She stepped closer. It's coming for your sons next, and when it does, everything you've built will burn just like my pack did, unless I stop it. Alpha Theron's jaw clenched. And how do I know you're not lying? How do I know you're not here for revenge? Celine smiled. It was not a kind smile. If I wanted revenge, your sons would already be dead. I've had 100 chances. I've stood in their rooms while they slept. I've walked behind them in empty hallways. I've served them food I could have poisoned with a dozen different things. She tilted her head. But I didn't. Because this is bigger than revenge. This is about survival. Yours, mine, everyone in this territory. The Alpha sat back down, rubbed his face with both hands. Shadowfang, I remember your father. He was a good Alpha. Stubborn, but good. He looked up at her. And you're telling me Marcus killed him. Marcus helped kill him. The curse did the rest. Why should I believe you? Because in 3 days, the blood moon rises. And when it does, the curse will complete. Every infected wolf in this pack will turn. And they won't stop until everything is dead. Celine leaned forward. You want proof? Go check on Gareth. See if he's still himself. Then check on the 12 other warriors who've been acting strange. Then check your own reflection and see if you recognize the wolf staring back. Alpha Theron stood, walked to the door, opened it, looked back at her. If you're lying, I'll kill you myself. I'm not. He left. Celine stood alone in the study for a long moment. Then she walked to the window, looked out at the forest, and felt the ancient thing inside her stir, waiting, watching, ready. 3 days until the blood moon. 3 days until everything burned. She'd survived worse. When Celine returned to her room that night, she found Kael and Ronan waiting outside her door. They stood side by side, identical faces, identical expressions, but something had shifted. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something sharper, smarter. We heard, Kael said. Celine stopped. Heard what? The conversation. With our father. These walls are old. Sound carries. Ronan crossed his arms. Your Shadowfang. She said nothing. Our pack destroyed yours, Kael continued, and you've been living here for weeks, taking our insults, cleaning our messes, serving us breakfast. He stepped closer. Why? Celine looked at them both, really looked, saw the boys they still were beneath the alpha masks they wore. Because you didn't destroy my pack. Your beta did. And making you pay for his sins would make me just as bad as him. But you could have, Ronan said quietly. You could have killed us any time. Yes. Why didn't you? Celine unlocked her door. Because someone needs to teach you what real strength looks like. And it's not this. She gestured at them. It's not cruelty. It's not dominance for the sake of dominance. It's knowing when to fight and when to protect. Your father's curse is spreading. In 3 days, this entire pack will tear itself apart. And the only thing standing between you and that is me. So you can hate me for being Shadowfang, or you can shut up and let me save your lives. She walked into her room and closed the door behind her. Outside, the twins stood in silence. Then Kael spoke. She's right, he said. Ronan nodded slowly. Yeah, she is. They walked away. And somewhere deep in the forest beyond the manor walls, something howled, long, low, hungry. The blood moon was rising, and the curse was awake. To the sound of boots in the hallway outside her room, heavy footsteps, multiple sets. She was dressed and at the door before the first knock came. A warrior she didn't recognize stood there with his hand still raised. Behind him were 3 more, all armed, all wearing expressions that said they'd rather be anywhere else. Alpha wants you in the war room, the warrior said. Now. Celine nodded and followed them through the manor. The fog had crept inside somehow. It curled along the floor like something alive. She could feel the wrongness in it, that oily texture in the air that meant the curse was spreading faster than she'd expected. 2 days until the blood moon. maybe less. The war room was in the lowest level of the manor. Stone walls, no windows, a massive table in the center carved from a single piece of oak that had probably seen more blood than any battlefield. Alpha Theron stood at the head with his arms crossed. Lunamira stood to his right, looking like she hadn't slept. And beside her, Beta Marcus. Celine stopped when she saw him. Marcus was a tall man with silver starting to thread through his dark hair. Handsome in the way predators are handsome. All sharp angles and practiced smiles. He'd been standing in shadow when she entered, but now he stepped into the light and looked at her with eyes that held no recognition. No guilt, nothing. "Miss Ward," Alpha Theron said, "thank you for coming." Celine's gaze never left Marcus. "You didn't give me a choice." "No, I didn't." The Alpha gestured to the table. "Sit." She sat. The warriors who'd escorted her took positions at the door. Marcus remained standing. Lunamira looked like she wanted to be sick. Alpha Theron placed both hands flat on the table. "I checked on Gareth last night like you suggested. He's dead. Tore his own throat out trying to break through the cell bars. 2 other warriors went mad during the night watch and had to be restrained. And this morning I woke up tasting copper in my mouth even though I haven't eaten anything." He paused. "So I'm inclined to believe you." "Good," Celine said. "But before we go any further, I need confirmation. Marcus, you were at the Shadowfang massacre. You saw it happen. Were there any survivors?" Marcus's expression didn't change. "No, Alpha. I searched every building, every den. Everyone was dead." Celine's jaw tightened. "Liar." "Excuse me?" Marcus turned to look at her for the first time. Really look. And something flickered in his eyes. Recognition. Then it was gone. "I don't know who you are, Miss Ward, but accusing me of lying about something that traumatic is—" "You were there," Celine interrupted. Her voice was ice. "You stood outside the Alpha's den while it burned. I saw you. I was 12 years old and hiding in the cellar beneath the floor, and I saw you through the cracks in the wood. You weren't searching for survivors. You were making sure there weren't any." The room went silent. Marcus smiled. It was a slow, sad smile. "Alpha, with all due respect, this woman is clearly traumatized. Perhaps she was at Shadowfang during the attack. Perhaps she did see me. But that doesn't mean—" "Stop talking," Alpha Theron said quietly. Marcus's smile faded. The Alpha looked at Celine. "You said he made a deal. With what?" "Something old. Something that was sealed away centuries ago by the first Alpha bloodlines. It calls itself the Hollow King. It feeds on pack bonds, on loyalty, on the very thing that makes wolves pack animals. And when it's done feeding, it turns them into monsters." She leaned forward. "Your beta broke the seal because he wanted power, because he thought he could control it, but you can't control something that old. You can only survive it." "That's insane," Marcus said. His voice had an edge now. "Alpha, you know me. I've served this pack for 15 years. I would never—" "Shut up." Alpha Theron didn't raise his voice. Didn't need to. The command in those 2 words was enough to make Marcus's mouth snap closed. The Alpha turned back to Celine. "Prove it." Celine stood, walked around the table, stopped in front of Marcus. "Show them your left shoulder." "What?" "Show them." Marcus laughed. "This is ridiculous. I'm not going to—" Celine grabbed his shirt and tore it open. Buttons scattered across the floor. And there on his left shoulder, burned into the skin like a brand, was a mark. A circle with jagged lines radiating outward like a shattered sun. The same mark that had been on every infected wolf Celine had hunted for the past 6 years. Lunamira gasped. Alpha Theron's face went stone. "What is that?" "The Hollow King's mark," Celine said. "Everyone who makes a deal with it carries one. It's how it tracks them, how it feeds." She looked at Marcus. "How long have you been infected?" Marcus stared at her, then at the Alpha, then back at her. And slowly, his expression shifted. The practiced concern melted away. What remained was something colder, sharper, almost relieved. 6 years, he said calmly, since the night I burned Shadowfang to the ground. The warriors at the door moved forward, but Alpha Theron raised one hand and they stopped. "Why?" the Alpha asked. His voice was quiet, dangerous. Marcus rolled his shoulder. The torn shirt hung loose. "Because you wouldn't. Because Shadowfang refused to submit and you let them." Because you cared more about honor than expansion. So I found something that didn't care about honor, something that understood power. He smiled. The Hollow King offered me everything: strength, influence, the ability to shape this pack into what it should be. All I had to do was feed it. Feed it what? Loyalty. Pack bonds. The thing that makes wolves weak. Marcus looked at each of them in turn. I've been doing it for years. Slowly, carefully, poisoning the water, whispering doubts, turning wolves against each other. And in 2 days, when the blood moon rises, every wolf I've infected will turn. They'll kill each other. And when the dust settles, I'll be the only one left standing. The Hollow King promised me that. Lunamira's voice shook. You killed our people, our pack, for power? For the right kind of power, the kind that doesn't hesitate, the kind that wins. Marcus turned to Alpha Theron. You were a good alpha once, strong, brutal, but then you had sons and you went soft. Started talking about legacy and honor and all the things that get packs destroyed. I couldn't let that happen, so I made a choice. Alpha Theron moved so fast Celine barely saw it. One moment he was standing at the head of the table. The next he had Marcus by the throat and slammed against the wall. You killed my warriors, infected my pack, turned me into a monster, and you call that a choice? Marcus smiled, even with the alpha's hand crushing his windpipe. You're already a monster. I just gave you permission to stop pretending. Alpha Theron's claws extended, pressed against Marcus's throat. Drew blood. Give me one reason I shouldn't kill you right now. Because killing me won't stop the curse. The Hollow King is already here. It's been here for days, waiting, watching, growing stronger with every wolf that turns. You kill me, and it just moves to the next host. Marcus's eyes flicked to Celine. But she knows that. Don't you, little Shadowfang? Celine's expression didn't change. Yes. What's he talking about? Lunamira demanded. Celine kept her eyes on Marcus. The curse doesn't die when the host dies. It transfers, usually to the strongest wolf in the immediate area. That's why it's been spreading so fast. Every time an infected wolf dies, 3 more get marked. So what do we do? Alpha Theron asked. You break the original seal, the one Marcus opened 6 years ago. You close it, permanently. That cuts off the Hollow King's connection to this world, and everything it infected dies with it. How? Blood, lots of it, from the bloodline that sealed it in the first place. The room went quiet. Marcus started laughing. Oh, this is perfect. This is beautiful. Alpha, do you know which bloodline sealed the Hollow King away centuries ago? Alpha Theron looked at Celine. Shadowfang. Specifically, Marcus said, still laughing, Shadowfang alphas. Pure bloodline, royal line, the kind of blood that has power woven into it. He grinned at Celine. She's the last one. The only one. If she dies closing the seal, the Hollow King loses its anchor. But if she survives, it hunts her forever. It'll never stop. It'll infect every pack she ever goes near until she has nothing left. So tell me, little Alpha Queen, what's it going to be? Die a hero or live as bait? Celine didn't answer. Alpha Theron released Marcus, stepped back, looked at her. Is he telling the truth? Yes. And you knew this when you came here. Yes. Lunamira's voice cracked. You were planning to sacrifice yourself. Celine finally looked away from Marcus. Looked at the Luna, at the Alpha, at the warriors standing at the door who'd spent weeks treating her like dirt. I was planning to finish what my family started. That's all. That's not all, Kael's voice came from the doorway. Both twins stood there. Neither of them looked like boys anymore. You were planning to save us even though we treated you like garbage. Ronan nodded. Even though our pack destroyed yours. Yes, Celine said simply. Kael looked at his father. We can't let her do it. We don't have a choice, Alpha Theron said. If what Marcus is saying is true, she's the only one who can close the seal. Then we find another way. There is no other way. Celine's voice cut through the room. The blood moon rises in less than 48 hours. Every infected wolf in this territory will turn. That's not a guess, that's a certainty. The only question is whether I close the seal before that happens. And the answer is yes. I will. Because that's what alphas do. They protect their pack even when their pack doesn't deserve it. Marcus clapped slowly. Beautiful speech, really. But you're missing something. What? He smiled. The seal isn't here. It never was. Shadowfang territory is 3 days' travel north through rogue-infested forest. You'll never make it in time. The Hollow King made sure of that. He tilted his head. It's been planning this for 6 years, waiting for you to surface, waiting for you to try. And now that you have, it's going to watch you fail, just like your father did. Celine's control slipped, just for a second, just long enough for her eyes to flash silver and her voice to drop into something that rattled the stones in the walls. Don't you ever speak about my father. Every wolf in the room dropped to their knees, not by choice, by instinct, by the sheer weight of dominance that rolled off her like a physical force. Even Alpha Theron, even the Luna, even the twins who'd spent weeks mocking her. Marcus was the only one still standing. He looked at her with something almost like pride. There she is, the real Alpha Queen. I was wondering when you'd stop hiding. Celine forced her power back down. The wolves in the room gasped as the pressure lifted. Alpha Theron climbed to his feet slowly. His legs shook. Lock him in the cells, the Alpha said. His voice was rough. Silver chains, double guard. If he so much as breathes wrong, kill him. The warriors grabbed Marcus. He didn't resist, just kept smiling as they dragged him toward the door. But before they could take him out, he looked back at Celine one last time. You should have stayed hidden, little queen. Now everyone knows what you are. And when this is over, when you're dead or marked or running, they'll hunt you forever. The Hollow King always collects its debts. They pulled him through the door. His laughter echoed down the hallway until it faded. Dead. The war room emptied until only Celine, Alpha Theron, Luna Mira, and the twins remained. Nobody spoke for a long moment. The weight of what they'd just learned hung in the air like smoke. Finally, Luna Mira broke the silence. 3 days north. That's impossible. Not impossible, Celine said. Just difficult. You'll die. Maybe. Definitely. Alpha Theron crossed his arms. Rogue packs control that territory. They don't recognize Blackthorn authority. They'll kill you on sight. Then I'll kill them first. You're one wolf. I'm enough. Kyle stepped forward. We'll go with you. No. You need help. I need you here protecting what's left of your pack when the infected wolves turn. Celine looked at him, really looked, saw the determination in his eyes, the desperate need to fix what he'd helped break. You're an alpha heir. Act like one. Your father is infected. Your beta is a traitor. Your warriors are dying. If you leave now, there's no pack to come back to. She's right, Alpha Theron said quietly. You stay, both of you. Ronan's jaw clenched. So we just let her go alone? Yes. That's not honor. That's cowardice. The Alpha's head snapped toward his son. What did you say? Ronan didn't back down. You heard me. She came here to save us. She's been protecting us for weeks, and now we're going to let her walk into a death trap because we're too afraid to help? He shook his head. That's not the pack I want to lead. Kyle nodded. Me neither. Alpha Theron stared at his sons, then at Celine, then at his wife. Luna Mira's face was wet with tears she wasn't bothering to hide anymore. If you go with her, you'll probably die, the Alpha said to his sons. Then we die, Kyle said. But at least we die as real alphas, not the arrogant children we've been pretending to be. The Alpha closed his eyes. When he opened them again, something had shifted. The weight of the curse was still there. The taint was still spreading through his veins. But underneath it was something else. Pride. Go, he said. Take whatever supplies you need. Take the fastest horses. And don't stop for anything. He looked at Celine. Bring my sons back alive. Celine held his gaze. I'll try. Don't try, do it. That's an order from one alpha to another. She nodded once. Luna Mira stepped forward. For the first time since Celine had arrived at Blackthorn Manor, the Luna looked at her without disgust, without judgment, with something that might have been respect. I'm sorry, Luna Mira said quietly, for how I treated you, for what I said, for everything. Celine's expression softened, just slightly. You were protecting your family, I understand that. But I was wrong. About you. About what an Omega can be. About strength. She reached out and took Celine's hand. Come back, please. This pack needs you more than it knows. Celine squeezed her hand once, then let go. We leave in an hour. Ouch. The stables were chaos. Wolves running everywhere, warriors arming themselves, servants packing supplies. Word had spread about Marcus, about the curse, about the fact that the beta had been poisoning the pack for years. Some wolves were angry, others were terrified. Most were both. Celine moved through it all like a ghost. She grabbed a pack, filled it with dried meat, water, rope, a knife, and a small leather pouch containing herbs that might slow the infection if any of them got bit. She strapped it to her back and turned to find the twins already waiting with 3 horses. Kyle tossed her the reins to a gray mare. She's fast, stubborn, kind of like you. Celine took the reins. We ride hard. We don't stop unless the horses collapse. If we get separated, head north and meet at the old ruins near the river bend. Do not engage rogue packs unless you have no choice. Our job is to get to Shadowfang territory. That's it. Understood? Both twins nodded. Good. She swung up into the saddle. Let's go. They rode out through the manor gates as the sun broke through the fog. Behind them, Blackthorn Pack watched in silence. Alpha Theron stood on the steps with Luna Mira at his side. His face was already grayer than it had been an hour ago. The infection was accelerating. Celine didn't look back. They hit the forest at a full gallop and didn't slow down. The first day passed in a blur of trees and mud and the constant sound of hooves pounding earth. They crossed 2 rivers, skirted 3 rogue territories, saw smoke in the distance twice but didn't stop to investigate. By nightfall, they'd covered more ground than should have been possible, but it still wasn't enough. They made camp in a hollow beneath a fallen oak. No fire, no light, just the 3 of them sitting in the dark eating cold meat and listening to the forest. Kale spoke first. I'm sorry. Celine looked at him. For what? For everything. For how we treated you. For making your life miserable. For not seeing what you really were. You were children, Celine said. You didn't know better. That's not an excuse. No, it's not. But it's an explanation. She took a drink of water. Your father raised you to be cruel because he thought cruelty was strength. Your mother taught you to look down on Omegas because she was afraid of them. And your beta fed you lies because that's what traitors do. You didn't have a chance. Ronan's voice was quiet. But we do now. Yes, you do. Will you teach us? Kyle asked. If we survive this, will you show us what real leadership looks like? Celine met his gaze, saw the desperation there, the need to be better than what he'd been. If we survive, I'll teach you everything I know. But you need to understand something. Real leadership isn't about dominance. It's about sacrifice. It's about making choices that hurt you so others don't have to hurt. It's about standing between your pack and the darkness, even when you know the darkness is going to win. She paused. Can you do that? Both twins nodded. Then sleep. We have a long ride tomorrow. They slept in shifts. Celine took the first watch. She sat with her back against the oak and stared into the forest and thought about her father. About the night Shadowfang burned, about the promise she'd made over his body that she would finish what he started. 2 days until the blood moon. 2 days to reach the seal. 2 days to save a pack that didn't deserve saving. But that was the thing about being alpha. It was never about deserving. It was about duty. The second day was worse. The horses were tired. The twins were exhausted. And the forest seemed to be actively working against them. Trees fell across their path. Rivers swelled with rain that came out of nowhere, and twice they heard howling in the distance that sounded wrong. Hollow, like something pretending to be a wolf, but not quite getting it right. The Hollow King was watching. They pushed through anyway, rode until the horses were frothing at the mouth and the twins were swaying in their saddles. By evening, they'd crossed into what used to be Shadowfang territory. Celine recognized the trees, the smell, the way the light filtered through the canopy. She was home, or what was left of it. They found the ruins just after sunset. The Alpha's den was nothing but burned timber and broken stone. The training grounds were overgrown with weeds. The homes where families had lived were collapsed and rotting. 6 years of abandonment had turned a thriving pack into a graveyard. Celine dismounted and walked through it slowly. Kyle and Ronan followed in silence. They didn't speak, didn't ask questions. They just watched as she moved through the ruins like she was visiting graves. She stopped in front of what used to be her family's den. The door was gone. The roof had caved in, but the stone foundation was still there, and carved into the largest stone, weathered but still visible, was the Shadowfang crest, a wolf howling at a crescent moon. She knelt in front of it, placed one hand on the stone. "I'm sorry I took so long," she whispered. Behind her something moved. She was on her feet in an instant, claws out, eyes silver. The twins drew weapons and moved to flank her. A figure stepped out from the shadows between the ruins. Tall, broad-shouldered, golden eyes that glowed in the dying light. The man from the forest. "I was wondering when you'd come back," he said. Celine's claws didn't retract. "Who are you?" "Someone who's been waiting a long time for Shadowfang to return." He looked past her at the twins. "You brought Alpha Heirs, interesting choice. Answer the question." He smiled. "My name is Tor. I was your father's beta, and I've been hunting the thing that killed him ever since." Celine's breath caught. "You're dead." "Everyone was dead." "I checked." "You checked the bodies Marcus left behind. I wasn't one of them. I was out on patrol when the attack happened. By the time I got back, it was over. Your father was dead. The pack was slaughtered, and you were gone." He stepped closer. "I've spent 6 years tracking the Hollow King, learning its patterns, finding its marks. And 3 days ago, I felt it wake up, felt it start moving toward Blackthorn. So I followed." Kael's voice was sharp. "How do we know you're telling the truth?" Tor looked at him. "You don't. But if I wanted you dead, you'd already be dead. I've been following you since you crossed the border." Celine studied him, saw the scars, the exhaustion, the same hollow look she saw in her own reflection. "If you're really my father's beta, prove it." Tor reached into his coat and pulled out something wrapped in cloth. He handed it to Celine. She unwrapped it slowly. Inside was a silver chain. Hanging from the chain was a pendant shaped like a wolf. She recognized it immediately. It had been her mother's. Her father had worn it every day after she died. Celine's hands shook. "Where did you get this?" "Your father gave it to me the night before he died. He said if anything happened to him, I should give it to you when you were ready." Tor's voice was quiet. "I think you're ready now." She closed her fist around the pendant. "The seal, where is it?" "Half a mile north, in the old ritual grounds. But there's a problem." "What?" "It's already open. Has been for the last 6 hours. The Hollow King is through. It's manifesting, and it brought friends." Ronan swore under his breath. Kael looked at Celine. "Can you still close it?" "Yes, but closing it with the Hollow King on this side means trapping it here. It'll fight. And it'll be stronger than anything you've ever faced." "How strong?" Tor answered. "Strong enough to wipe out an entire pack in one night. Strong enough to infect hundreds of wolves with a single breath. Strong enough that even an alpha queen might not survive." The forest went quiet. Celine looked at each of them. At Tor. At the twins. At the ruins of her home. Then she looked north. Toward the ritual grounds. Toward the thing that had taken everything from her. "We're out of time," she said. "The blood moon rises in 4 hours. If the Hollow King completes the manifestation, every infected wolf in 3 territories will turn. Blackthorn, Greystone, Ironclaw, all of them. Thousands of wolves dead. We end this now or we don't end it at all." She started walking north. The others followed. And somewhere ahead in the darkness, something ancient and hungry felt them coming. It smiled and waited. The ritual grounds looked like the earth had vomited up its nightmares and left them to rot in the moonlight. Stone pillars carved with symbols so old they predated language jutted from the ground in a perfect circle. In the center, where grass should have grown, there was only black soil that seemed to pulse like a living thing. And standing in the middle of that circle, with its back to them and its form flickering between solid and smoke, was the Hollow King. It stood 7 feet tall, maybe 8. Hard to tell when its edges kept shifting. Its skin was gray like old meat. Its eyes were holes, deep black holes that swallowed light and gave nothing back. And when it turned to look at them, Celine felt something she hadn't felt in 6 years. Fear. Not the kind of fear that makes you run. The kind that makes you understand exactly how small you are in the face of something that existed before your ancestors learned to walk upright. The kind that whispers in your bones that no matter how strong you think you are nothing compared to this. She pushed the fear down, locked it away, focused. Kael's voice was barely a whisper. What is that thing? Tor's hand was already on his blade. Everything wrong with the world given form. The Hollow King's mouth opened. No lips, just a gaping wound where a mouth should be. And when it spoke, the sound came from everywhere and nowhere at once. You came. Good. I was getting bored waiting. Celine stepped forward. The twins moved to flank her. Tor circled right. They spread out without needing to coordinate. Pack instinct. The thing that made wolves dangerous even when they were outnumbered. The seal closes tonight, Celine said. Her voice didn't shake. Wouldn't let it. You go back, permanently. The Hollow King tilted its head, its neck bent at an angle that would have snapped a normal spine. I remember you. Small thing. Hiding under the floor while your father burned. You smelled like fear then. You smell like it now. I smell like someone about to ruin your night. It laughed. The sound was glass breaking inside your skull. Your father said something similar right before I tore his throat out and made his beta watch. Right before I burned everything he loved and left you alone in the dark. Tell me, little queen, did that make you stronger or did it just make you angrier? Celine's claws extended. Silver light rippled across her skin. The wolf inside her pushed against the surface, demanding to be let out. Not yet. Not until she was close enough to make it count. Both, she said. Good. Anger makes this fun. The Hollow King moved. 1 second it was standing in the center of the circle. The next it was in front of Tor with its hand buried in his chest. Tor gasped. Blood poured from his mouth. The Hollow King lifted him off the ground like he weighed nothing. Too slow, Beta, just like last time. It threw him. Tor's body hit a stone pillar hard enough to crack it. He crumpled to the ground and didn't move. Kael roared and charged, shifted mid-run, fur erupted across his skin, bones cracked and reformed. He hit the ground on 4 legs and launched himself at the Hollow King's throat. Fast, brutal, everything his father had taught him. The Hollow King caught him by the neck mid-air, squeezed, brave, stupid, but brave. Ronan came from the side, also shifted, claws out, aiming for the creature's exposed ribs. He connected, raked deep gouges through gray flesh. The Hollow King didn't even flinch. It backhanded Ronan so hard the boy went airborne. He hit the ground 20 feet away and slid through the dirt. The Hollow King looked at Kael, still struggling in its grip. Then it looked at Celine. These are Alpha heirs, the future of Blackthorn, the bloodline that helped me spread. And you brought them here to die. How poetic. Let him go, Celine said. She was moving now, slow, deliberate, circling, looking for an opening. Why? He's already infected. All of Blackthorn is. The mark spreads through pack bonds, through family, through blood. The moment his father took the infection, it passed to his sons. They're mine now, just like everyone else. Kael's eyes widened. He tried to speak, but the Hollow King's grip was too tight. Celine's heart slammed against her ribs. You're lying! Am I? Look at him. Really look. She did. And there on Kael's shoulder, barely visible beneath the fur, was the mark. Faint, new, but growing. No. Ronan was climbing to his feet, bleeding from a dozen places. And on his shoulder, too. The same mark. The Hollow King dropped Kael. The boy hit the ground, gasping for air. When this blood moon rises in 3 hours, they turn, just like their father, just like everyone you're trying to save. You failed before you even started. Rage erupted through Celine like a wildfire. Hot, vicious, all-consuming. She shifted, felt her bones break and reform, felt fur ripple across her skin, felt the wolf take over. And this time, she let it, welcomed it, became it. She hit the Hollow King like a freight train. Claws tore through gray flesh. Teeth found purchase in something that might have been a shoulder. They went down together in a tangle of limbs and fury. The ground shook, the stone pillars cracked, and for just a moment, Celine felt like she might actually win. Then the Hollow King grabbed her by the throat, lifted her, slammed her into the ground so hard the air exploded from her lungs. It leaned down, put its face inches from hers. You fight like your father. All rage, no strategy. That's why he lost. That's why you'll lose. That's why everyone you love will die screaming. Celine's vision blurred. Black spots danced at the edges. Her ribs were broken. Maybe her spine too. The wolf was screaming inside her to get up, to fight, to survive. But her body wasn't listening anymore. This is the part where I ask if you have any last words. But I already know what you'll say. You'll curse me, threaten me, promise revenge even though we both know you're about to die. So let's skip that and get to the good part. It raised one clawed hand, aimed for her heart. Then Kyle hit it from the side. The boy was still in wolf form, still bleeding, still marked. But he came anyway, drove his full weight into the Hollow King's ribs and knocked it off Celine. They rolled across the ground in a snarling mass of teeth and claws. Ronan was there too, limping, hurt, but fighting. He grabbed the Hollow King's arm and bit down hard enough to break bone. The Hollow King screamed. The sound shattered two of the stone pillars. It threw Kale off, grabbed Ronan by the head, started to squeeze. Celine forced herself up. Her body shrieked in protest. Bones ground against each other. Blood poured from cuts she couldn't see. But she stood anyway. Because that's what you do when you're alpha. You stand, even when standing should be impossible, even when every part of you is screaming to stay down. She shifted back to human, needed her hands for this, needed to think. The wolf was strong, but the wolf couldn't close the seal. Only an alpha could do that, only Shadow Fang blood. She looked at the circle, at the black soil pulsing in the center, at the symbols carved into the pillars. Her father had taught her this, years ago, back when she was too young to understand what it meant. Blood of the bloodline, spoken in the old tongue, willingly given, life for death, death for life. The seal closes. The door locks. The ancient thing returns to its cage. But there was a catch. There was always a catch with old magic. The one who closes the seal dies. Not maybe, not probably, definitely. The magic requires a sacrifice, a permanent anchor on this side to hold the door shut forever. That's why her father had tried to find another way. That's why he'd failed. Because there was no other way. Celine looked at Kyle and Ronan still fighting, still trying to save her even though they were marked, even though they were going to turn, even though they'd spent weeks making her life miserable. She looked at Tor still crumpled against the pillar. Maybe dead. Maybe dying. She looked at the Hollow King. At the thing that had taken everything from her. Her family, her pack, her childhood, her life. And she made a choice. The kind of choice that defines what kind of leader you really are. Not the choice that saves you. The choice that saves everyone else. She ran toward the circle. The Hollow King saw her, realized what she was doing, threw Ronan aside and lunged. Too late. Celine hit the center of the circle and dropped to her knees, slammed both palms into the black soil, felt it surge up her arms like ice water in her veins, started speaking in a language older than wolves, older than packs, older than the concept of civilization itself. The symbols on the pillars flared white. The ground began to shake. The black soil started to glow. The Hollow King screamed, not in anger, in fear, real fear. It grabbed her shoulder, tried to pull her away. But the magic had already started. It couldn't be stopped, couldn't be reversed. No, you can't. I'm too strong. I've infected too many. You close that seal and everyone marked dies. The heirs, the alpha. Hundreds of wolves. You'll kill them all. Celine looked up at it, blood running from her nose, from her ears. The magic was tearing her apart from the inside, burning through her like acid. But she smiled anyway. Then they die clean, not as your slaves, not as monsters, as wolves. The Hollow King's eyes widened. Its form started to flicker, started to fade. It was being pulled back, dragged toward the seal, toward the darkness it came from. It grabbed her with both hands, tried one last time to break her concentration. You're killing yourself for a pack that destroyed yours, for heirs who tortured you, for an alpha who hit you. Why? What's the point? Celine's voice was steady even as blood poured from her mouth. Because that's what it means to be alpha. You wouldn't understand. You're just a parasite. But I'm a queen, and queens protect their people, even when their people don't deserve it. The seal flared brighter. The Hollow King's screams reached a pitch that made the trees in the forest crack and split. Its form began to dissolve, turn to smoke, get sucked down into the black soil like water down a drain. And then Kyle was there, on her left. Human again, bleeding, marked, but conscious. "You're not doing this alone," he said. He slammed his hand into the soil beside hers. Ronan appeared on her right, also human, also marked, also determined. "We started this. We finish it. Together." "No," Celine gasped. "It'll kill you, both of you." "We're already dead," Ronan said. "We're marked. We turn in 2 hours. At least this way we die as something other than monsters." Kale nodded. "At least this way we die as alphas." They started speaking the words with her, didn't know the language, didn't understand it, but they followed her rhythm, her cadence, her intent. The magic recognized them, accepted them, and the seal began to close faster. The Hollow King was almost gone now, just a head and one arm still visible. Its voice was fading, becoming distant. "You'll regret this, all of you, when you're dead, when your pack falls, when everything you fought for turns to ash. You'll regret it." Celine met its gaze one last time. "No, we won't, because we'll be free, and you'll be gone, forever." The seal slammed shut. The light exploded outward in a wave that knocked down every tree within 100 yards. The stone pillars shattered, the ground split open, and the black soil turned to white ash. Celine collapsed forward, her hands were still buried in the earth, her body was shutting down. She could feel it. Organ by organ, system by system, the magic had taken everything, blood, strength, life, worth it. She tried to push herself up, couldn't. Her arms gave out. She fell onto her side in the ash. The twins were down too. Kyle on his back staring at the sky. Ronan curled on his side, both of them breathing but barely. Footsteps. Someone running. Tor. Not dead after all. He dropped to his knees beside Celine. His face was covered in blood and dirt and tears. "No, no, stay with me. You can't die. Not after all this." Celine tried to speak, coughed blood instead. Her lungs were filling, drowning her from the inside, but she managed 3 words. "Check, the boys." Tor crawled to Kyle, ripped his shirt open, looked at the shoulder where the mark had been. It was gone, clean skin, no trace of infection. He moved to Ronan. Same thing. The mark was gone. "It worked," Tor said, his voice cracked. "The seal closed. The infection is gone. Everyone marked is clean." He crawled back to Celine. "You did it. You saved them all." Celine smiled, tasted copper, felt warmth spreading across the ground beneath her. Her blood, too much of it. She looked up at the sky. The moon was rising, full, red, beautiful, the blood moon. But it didn't matter anymore. The curse was broken. The Hollow King was gone. The pack would survive. Her vision started to fade, gray at the edges, creeping inward like fog. Tor grabbed her hand. "Don't, please. I just got you back. I can't lose you again." "You have to," she whispered. "The seal. Required. Anchor. There has to be another way." "There isn't." Kale's voice, weak but determined. "Yes, there is." Celine turned her head, saw the twins sitting up, saw them looking at each other, then at her, then at the seal. "Blood of the bloodline," Ronan said quietly. "That's what it needs. Permanent anchor, but it doesn't specify how much blood, or from how many." Kyle nodded. "We're Alpha Heirs. Our blood has power too. Not Shadowfang, but still Alpha, still royal." "What are you saying?" Tor demanded. "We split the anchor, 3 ways instead of 1. She gives some. We give some. The seal gets what it needs. Nobody dies." Kale looked at Celine. "It might work." "It won't," she said. "But it might," Ronan insisted. "And maybe is better than definitely dying." Celine wanted to argue, wanted to tell them it was too dangerous, too risky, that if they were wrong, all 3 of them would die instead of just her. But she couldn't speak anymore. The gray was spreading, the warmth was fading, and somewhere far away she heard howling, her father's voice maybe, or her mother's. Calling her home. The twins didn't wait for permission. They crawled to the seal, cut their palms with claws, let their blood drip into the ash where the black soil had been, and the magic responded. It surged up from the ground, wrapped around all three of them. Celine, Kael, Ronan connected them, bound them, made them one thing instead of three. Pack bond. Real pack bond. The kind that transcends blood and territory and history. The kind that makes you willing to die for wolves you barely know because dying together is better than surviving alone. The magic pulled. Hard. Celine screamed. The twins screamed. Tor was shouting something, but she couldn't hear him over the roaring in her ears. And then it stopped. The magic released them, faded, disappeared back into the earth. Celine gasped. Air flooded her lungs. Her vision cleared. The gray retreated. She looked down at her hands, still bleeding, but not dying. Not anymore. She looked at the twins. They were conscious, breathing, alive. It had worked. The seal was closed. The Hollow King was gone. And nobody died. Tor collapsed beside her. You insane children. That should not have worked. But it did, Kael said. He was grinning, covered in blood and ash and looking half dead but grinning anyway. Ronan laughed. It sounded slightly hysterical. We just shared a pack bond with an alpha queen from a dead pack. Father is going to lose his mind. Celine tried to sit up, failed. Tor caught her before she fell. Easy. You're still hurt. That magic might have kept you alive, but it didn't heal you. The pack, she said. Blackthorn, your father. The infection is gone, Tor said. I can feel it. The moment the seal closed, every marked wolf got clean. They'll all wake up tomorrow confused as hell, but alive. Celine closed her eyes. Let herself breathe. Let herself feel the relief washing over her in waves. It was over. 6 years of hunting. 6 years of hiding. 6 years of carrying the weight of her destroyed pack on her shoulders, alone. Over. She opened her eyes and looked at the twins. Thank you. Kael shook his head. You saved our lives, our pack, our father. We should be thanking you. You did, she said, by refusing to let me die alone. Ronan's expression turned serious. What happens now? Good question. What happened now? She was the last of Shadowfang. They were Blackthorn heirs. The seal was closed, but the pack bond they'd just formed was real, permanent. She could feel it humming beneath her skin like a second heartbeat. Before she could answer, Tor stiffened. We have company. Footsteps. Multiple sets. Coming from the south. Through the ruins. Moving fast. Tor helped Celine to her feet. The twins stood and moved to flank her. All of them injured. All of them exhausted. But still ready to fight if they had to. Figures emerged from the tree line. Wolves. At least 20 of them. Warriors by the look of them. And leading them was Alpha Theron. He looked different. The gray pallor was gone. The wrongness that had clung to him like smoke had disappeared. He looked like himself again, strong, brutal, fully in control. He stopped 10 feet from them, looked at the shattered pillars, the white ash. His sons covered in blood, Celine barely standing, Tor ready to fight anyone who got too close. The infection is gone, he said. Not a question, a statement. Yes, Celine said. You closed the seal. Yes. He looked at his sons. And you helped. Kael nodded. Yes, sir. Alpha Theron was silent for a long moment. Then he did something Celine never expected. He knelt. Every warrior behind him dropped to their knees immediately, 20 wolves kneeling in the ash and blood and broken stone. Forgive me, Alpha Theron said. His voice was steady, but there was something raw underneath, something broken. For the way I treated you, for what I allowed to happen in my house, for hitting you, for believing Marcus over you, for everything. Celine stared at him. Stand up. Not until you accept my apology. I'm not your alpha. Tonight you are. He met her gaze. You saved my pack, my sons, my life. That makes you alpha in every way that matters. So I'm asking, is one alpha to another? Forgive me. The forest was silent except for the wind and the distant sound of the river. Celine looked at him, at the warriors, at the twins standing beside her, at Tor watching with something that might have been pride, and she made another choice. Not the kind that costs your life, the kind that defines what kind of future you're going to build. Stand up, she said again, softer this time. Alpha Theron stood, the warriors followed. You want forgiveness? Celine continued. Then earn it. Go back to your pack. Look every wolf in the eye and apologize for not protecting them from Marcus. Rebuild what was broken. Teach your sons what real strength looks like. And if you ever raise your hand to an Omega again, I'll come back and rip your throat out myself. Understood?" A smile flickered across the Alpha's face. "Understood." He looked at his sons. "We're leaving at first light. You're coming with us." "No," Kyle said. Alpha Theron's expression hardened. "That wasn't a request." "We're staying with her," Ronan said. "For now. She's hurt, she needs help, and we owe her that much. She has Tor. And now she has us too." Kale crossed his arms. "You want us to learn real leadership? This is where it starts." Father and son stared at each other. A battle of wills, of dominance, the kind that defined pack hierarchy for generations. Alpha Theron broke first. He nodded once. "1 week. Then you come home. Both of you." "Deal," the twins said in unison. The Alpha turned to Selene one last time. "Thank you. For saving my sons when I couldn't. For being the kind of Alpha I should have been. For reminding me what honor actually means." He paused. "Blackthorn owes you a debt. Name it. Anything. Territory, resources, blood, whatever you need." Selene thought about it. Thought about the ruins around them, the pack that was gone, the life she'd lost. Then she looked at the twins, at the bond humming between them. "Keep your sons safe," she said quietly. "Teach them well. And if I ever need help, answer when I call." "Done." Alpha Theron turned and walked back toward the tree line. The warriors followed. Within minutes, they disappeared into the forest. Selene's legs gave out. Tor caught her, lowered her gently to the ground. "Easy," he said. "You're still bleeding." "I know." Kael and Ronan dropped beside her, all three of them exhausted, all three of them bound now by something deeper than blood. "What happens to us?" Ronan asked quietly. Selene looked up at the blood moon, watched the red light paint the world in shades of crimson. "I don't know. The pack bond is permanent. We're connected now. I can feel you both. Your heartbeats, your pain, your presence." "Is that bad?" Kael asked. "I don't know," she admitted. "Shadowfang is gone. Blackthorn is yours. But we're bound. Which means wherever I go, part of me stays with you. And wherever you go, part of you stays with me." "Then we'll figure it out," Ronan said. "Together." Selene smiled despite the pain, despite the exhaustion, despite everything. "Together." Tor stood and looked around at the ruins. "We should move. This place isn't safe. Too exposed. Too many memories." He was right, but Selene couldn't move yet, didn't have the strength. Her body had given everything, the magic, the fight, the sacrifice. She was running on fumes and willpower. "In a minute," she said. The twins stayed beside her. Neither of them spoke. They just sat in the ash and blood and ruins of a pack that had been destroyed 6 years ago. And somehow, sitting there with 2 Blackthorn heirs and a beta who'd survived the impossible, Selene didn't feel alone anymore. The blood moon continued to rise. Red light spilled across the ritual grounds. And somewhere in the distance, a wolf howled. Not in pain, not in fear, just marking territory, claiming space, living. Selene closed her eyes and let herself hear it. Let herself feel the weight lifting, the burden easing, the past finally beginning to release its grip. She was alive. The curse was broken. The pack was saved. And for the first time in 6 years, she allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, there was a future worth fighting for. But then Tor stiffened, his nostrils flared, his eyes went wide. "No," he whispered. Selene's eyes snapped open. "What?" "Something's wrong. The seal. It's—" The ground beneath them began to shake. The white ash started to turn black again. And from the center of the circle, where the seal should have been closed permanently, smoke began to rise. Thick, dark, hungry. The twins scrambled to their feet. Selene tried to stand, but her body refused. Tor grabbed her, pulled her back. "It can't be," Kael said. "We closed it. We saw it close." The smoke coalesced, formed a shape, a familiar shape, 7 feet tall, gray skin, empty eyes. The Hollow King stepped out of the smoke, but it wasn't alone. Behind it, dozens of figures emerged. Wolves. Infected wolves. The ones who'd died over the past 6 years. The ones the curse had claimed. All of them marked. All of them hollow-eyed and wrong. And at the front, wearing a smile that didn't reach his eyes, was Marcus. He looked at Celine, at the twins, at Tor, and he laughed. "Did you really think it would be that easy?" he asked. "Did you really think a half-blood seal and 2 untrained pups would be enough to stop something this old, this hungry?" The Hollow King tilted its head. Its voice echoed from everywhere at once. "You closed one door, but I have many doors, and you just showed me exactly where the next Alpha Queen lives. Thank you for that." Celine's blood turned to ice. Marcus stepped forward. The infected wolves followed. "The blood moon is only beginning. The seal isn't closed, it's fractured. And in 3 hours, when the moon reaches its peak, every wolf in 3 territories won't just turn. They'll die. And their deaths will open every seal your ancestors ever made. Every prison, every cage, everything they locked away to keep the world safe." He smiled. "And it's all your fault." The Hollow King's laughter filled the air. The infected wolves began to circle. And Celine, broken and bleeding and barely conscious, realized with horrifying clarity that they hadn't won. They'd just given the enemy exactly what it wanted, a way in, and now nothing could stop what was coming. Celine stared at the Hollow King and the army of infected wolves, and Marcus standing there with his traitor's smile, and felt something inside her shift. Not break. Shift. Like a bone setting back into place after being dislocated for 6 years. She'd been running toward this moment her entire life without knowing it. Every loss, every scar, every night spent alone in the dark, wondering if survival was worth the cost. It had all been leading here, to this clearing, to these ruins, to the choice between giving up or finding one last reserve of strength she didn't know she had. The thing about being pushed to your absolute limit is that you discover what you're actually made of. Not the version you pretend to be. Not the mask you wear. The real thing underneath. The core that either holds or shatters. Celine's core was iron. She looked at Tor, at the twins, at the infected wolves circling, at Marcus, at the Hollow King, and she started to laugh. Not hysterical laughter, not the kind that comes from breaking, the kind that comes from finally understanding the joke. The universe had spent 6 years beating her down, taking everything, leaving her with nothing but scars and ghosts and the weight of a dead pack on her shoulders, and now it wanted more. Fine. She'd give it more, but not what it expected. "You're right," she said to Marcus. Her voice was steady, clear. "The seal is fractured. Your king is back. And we're all probably going to die in the next 3 hours." Marcus's smile widened. "Finally, some honesty. But here's what you don't understand, what you've never understood. Because you're not a real alpha. You're just a parasite wearing an alpha's face." She pushed herself up. Tor tried to stop her, but she waved him off. Her legs shook. Her ribs screamed. But she stood anyway. Real alphas don't win by never falling. They win by getting back up every single time. And I've been falling for 6 years. I'm really good at getting back up. The Hollow King tilted its head. "Interesting. The little queen has teeth. But teeth don't matter when you're outnumbered 30-4. "You're right, they don't." Celine looked at Kyle and Ronan. "You two need to run, now. Get back to Blackthorn, warn your father, get everyone to evacuate. Head west toward Ironpaw territory. They'll give you sanctuary." "We're not leaving you," Kale said. "That's an order." "We don't take orders from you," Ronan shot back. "We take them with you. That's what the pack bond means. We're in this together or not at all." Celine wanted to argue, wanted to tell them they were being stupid, that dying here wouldn't prove anything, that their father needed them alive. But she saw the look in their eyes, that stubborn determination, that refusal to back down even when backing down was the smart choice. They'd learned it from her, from weeks of watching her take abuse and keep standing, from seeing her refuse to break no matter what was thrown at her, from understanding that strength wasn't about dominance, it was about endurance. She'd taught them that without meaning to, and now they were throwing it back in her face. "Fine," she said. "You stay, but you follow my lead. No heroics, no stupid sacrifices. We fight smart or we don't fight at all." Both twins nodded. Tor stepped up beside her. "I assume that applies to me too. You're injured. So are you. I'm always injured. It's kind of my default state at this point." He smiled. It was grim, tired, but real. "Then I guess we're both operating at peak performance." Marcus clapped slowly. "How touching. The broken queen and her misfit pack. This is going to be fun to watch." He gestured to the infected wolves. "Kill them, slowly. I want to hear them scream." The wolves charged. What happened next was chaos. Pure, brutal, unforgiving. Celine shifted mid-run, met the first infected wolf head-on. Claws tore through fur, teeth found throats. She fought like something feral, something that had forgotten how to feel pain because pain was just background noise now. Beside her, Kyle and Ronan moved in perfect sync. They'd trained together their entire lives, knew each other's rhythms, covered each other's blind spots, and the pack bond humming between them and Celine made them even more dangerous. They could feel where she was going before she moved, could anticipate, react, flow. Tor fought like a man with nothing left to lose. Every strike was lethal, every movement precise. He'd spent 6 years hunting infected wolves alone. He knew their patterns, their weaknesses, how to kill them fast. But there were too many. For every wolf they dropped, 2 more took its place. And the Hollow King just stood there watching, waiting, learning. Celine felt her strength fading, felt blood pouring from wounds she couldn't close, felt her vision starting to blur. But she kept fighting, kept moving, because stopping meant dying, and dying meant failing. And she'd failed enough for one lifetime. An infected wolf caught her from behind, drove her to the ground. Its teeth went for her throat. She got her arm up just in time, felt fangs punch through flesh, scrape bone. She screamed, drove her claws up into its belly, ripped. The wolf collapsed on top of her. She shoved it off, climbed to her feet, swayed, nearly went down again. Kale was suddenly there, holding her up. "We can't keep this up," he gasped. Blood poured from a gash across his ribs. "I know. What do we do?" Good question. What did they do? They were losing. The infected wolves were too many, too coordinated. And the Hollow King hadn't even joined the fight yet. When it did, they were finished. Unless... An idea flickered at the edge of Celine's consciousness. Desperate. Insane. Probably suicidal, but maybe. Just maybe. "The pack bond," she said. "Between us. It's still raw, still forming. What if we pushed it?" Ronan limped over. His left leg was barely supporting weight. "Pushed it how?" "Alpha dominance works by forcing submission through pack bonds. The stronger the bond, the stronger the dominance. That's why it doesn't work on rogues. No pack connection, no anchor." She looked at them both. "But the Hollow King created these wolves. It infected them, marked them. That means there's a bond, twisted, wrong, but still a bond." Kale's eyes widened. "You want to hijack it?" "I want us to hijack it. Together. You're Alpha Heirs, I'm Alpha Queen. We have Shadow Fang blood and Blackthorn blood and a fresh pack bond that shouldn't exist. If we combine our dominance and aim it at the infected wolves all at once, we might be able to override the Hollow King's control, make them stop, just for a second, long enough to bo otiko ikas kiki." "To kill Marcus," Tor finished. He'd appeared beside them, bleeding, limping, but still standing. "Cut the head off the snake." Marcus opened the first seal. "He's the original anchor on this side. You kill him, you sever the Hollow King's primary connection. It won't close the seal, but it'll weaken it. Buy time." "How much time?" Ronan asked. "I don't know. Hours, maybe days. Long enough to figure out how to seal it properly." Marcus had been watching them talk. Now he laughed. "You're not seriously considering this. You can barely stand. You think you can overpower ancient magic with friendship and determination? This isn't a children's story. This is the real world. And in the real world, monsters win." Celine looked at him. Really looked. Saw past the arrogance and the smile and the power he thought he had. Saw the fear underneath, the desperation. He'd been infected for 6 years. 6 years of feeding the Hollow King. 6 years of slowly losing himself piece by piece until there was nothing left but a hollow shell pretending to be a wolf. He was already dead. He just hadn't figured it out yet. "You're right," she said. "This isn't a story. Monsters do win. But here's the thing about monsters, Marcus. We're really good at killing our own kind." She grabbed Kyle's hand, Ronan's hand, felt the pack bond flare between them like a live wire, felt their strength feeding into her, hers feeding into them, creating something bigger than the sum of its parts. And then she pulled, hard. The dominance that erupted from the three of them wasn't normal, wasn't natural. It was the kind of thing that happened when you took three different bloodlines, three different kinds of power, and forced them together into something new. Something that had never existed before. Every infected wolf in the clearing froze. Mid-step, mid-lunge, mid-strike. They just stopped. Caught between two masters, two sources of control. The Hollow King's corruption pulling one way. The combined dominance of three alphas pulling the other. For 3 seconds, they held it. 3 seconds of absolute control. 3 seconds where the infected wolves couldn't move, couldn't think, couldn't obey anything except the overwhelming command to stop. 3 seconds was all Tor needed. He moved like lightning, crossed the distance between him and Marcus in a heartbeat. Marcus saw him coming, tried to shift, tried to run, too slow. Tor's claws punched through his chest, wrapped around his heart, and squeezed. Marcus gasped. Blood poured from his mouth. He looked down at the hand buried in his chest, then up at Tor. "You were my friend," Marcus whispered. "I was your beta," Tor said, "and you betrayed everything that meant. This isn't murder. This is justice." He ripped Marcus's heart out, literally, tore it from his chest and dropped it in the ash. Marcus collapsed. Dead before he hit the ground, the mark on his shoulder flared once, burned bright, then shattered like glass. And every infected wolf in the clearing screamed. The Hollow King's roar shook the forest. "No, no, you can't. He was mine. My anchor, my connection." The infected wolves started to convulse. Foam poured from their mouths. Their eyes rolled back. One by one, they collapsed. The corruption that had been holding them together was unraveling. Without Marcus, without the original anchor, the magic had nothing to hold on to. They died. All of them. Within seconds. The Hollow King stood alone in the center of the clearing. Its form flickered, started to fade, tried to retreat back through the seal, but something was wrong. The seal was closing, slowly, grinding shut like a jaw. It looked at Celine, at the twins, at Tor standing over Marcus's corpse. "This isn't over. I'll find another way through, another anchor, another pack. And when I do, I'm coming for you first." "I'll be waiting," Celine said. The Hollow King screamed one last time, and then it was gone. Sucked back through the seal, back into the darkness, back into the prison her ancestors had built centuries ago. The seal slammed shut, the ground stopped shaking, the ash settled, and the clearing went silent. Celine released the pack bond, released Kael and Ronan's hands, and immediately collapsed. Her legs gave out. Her vision went dark. She hit the ground hard. Distantly, she heard voices. Kael shouting her name. Ronan cursing, Tor's hands on her shoulder. But it all felt far away. Like she was underwater, like the world was happening to someone else. She'd used everything, blood, strength, life. There was nothing left, just a hollow shell that used to be a wolf. Maybe that's what happened when you became the monster. Maybe you burned so hot for so long that eventually there was nothing left but ash. She closed her eyes. Let the darkness take her. It felt peaceful, quiet. For the first time in 6 years, she wasn't afraid. This was a good place to die. In the ruins of her pack, surrounded by wolves who'd chosen to stand with her even when standing meant dying. Her father would have been proud. Her mother, too. She let go and waited for the end. But the end didn't come. Instead, there was warmth, spreading through her chest, through her limbs, pushing back the darkness, pulling her back toward consciousness. She opened her eyes. Kael and Ronan were kneeling beside her, their hands pressed against her chest, and they were glowing, faint silver light rippling across their skin. The pack bond. They were feeding her their strength, their life, keeping her anchored. "Stop," she tried to say. It came out as a whisper. "You'll kill yourselves." "Shut up," Kael said. "We're not losing you, not after everything." "You don't get to die," Ronan added. "You don't get to save us and then leave. That's not how this works." Tor appeared behind them. He placed his hands on the twins' shoulders, and the glow intensified. He was feeding them, which meant they could feed her 3 wolves keeping one alive through sheer stubborn refusal to let go. The warmth spread. Her wounds began to close. Not fully, not completely, but enough. Enough to breathe, enough to think, enough to survive. The light faded. The twins collapsed backward, exhausted. Tor caught them, lowered them gently to the ground. Celine lay there staring up at the sky. The blood moon was setting, the red light fading to orange, to pink, to the soft gray of approaching dawn. They'd survived. Against every odd. Against ancient magic and infected wolves and a traitor who'd spent 6 years planning their destruction. They'd survived. "We did it," KL said. His voice was hoarse, broken, but tinged with something that might have been pride. "Yeah," Celine said. "We did." Ronan started laughing. It sounded half crazy. "My father is going to kill us for almost dying. If he tries, we'll just do this again," Kael said. "Do what?" "Save each other. Pack bond. All of it." He looked at Celine. "That's what real alphas do, right?" She smiled. It hurt. Everything hurt, but she smiled anyway. "Yeah, that's what real alphas do." They lay there in the ash and blood and ruins for a long time. None of them had the strength to move. None of them wanted to. The battle was over. The curse was broken. For the first time in 6 years, Celine wasn't being hunted, wasn't running, wasn't afraid. She was just existing, and that was enough. Dawn came properly, soft gold light spilling through the trees, painting the ruins in shades of amber and honey. Birds started singing. The forest woke up. Life continued the way it always did after tragedy. Tor was the first to sit up. He looked around at the bodies, at the ash, at the closed seal. "We need to move. The scent of blood will draw scavengers. Maybe worse." Celine forced herself upright. Every muscle screamed, but she managed. "Where do we go?" "Blackthorn," Kael said. He was sitting up too now. Ronan beside him. Both of them looked like they'd been through a war, which they had. "Father needs to know what happened. The pack needs to know they're safe." Celine nodded. "And after that?" "After that, you decide," Ronan said. "You're the Alpha Queen, last of Shadow Fang. You can rebuild here, start fresh, or you can come with us. Join Blackthorn. Teach us what you promised. Either way, we follow your lead." She looked around at the ruins, at what was left of her home. Part of her wanted to stay, to rebuild, to honor the memory of everything that had been taken. But another part, the part that had been alone for too long, knew the truth. Shadowfang was gone. Not just the buildings and the wolves, the spirit, the bond, the thing that made a pack a pack. You couldn't rebuild that alone, and trying would just be another form of dying slowly. "I'll come with you," she said quietly. "For now, until I figure out what comes next." Kael grinned. "Good, because I wasn't taking no for an answer." They helped each other up. 4 wolves battered and bleeding, but alive. They walked out of the ruins together, left the bodies and the ash and the closed seal behind, left the ghosts, left the past. The horses were where they'd left them, tired but alive. They mounted slowly, started the journey back to Blackthorn. None of them spoke much. Too tired, too wrung out. But the silence was comfortable, the kind that comes from surviving something together, from knowing you can trust the wolves beside you because you've already seen them at their worst and they didn't run. But they reached Blackthorn by mid-afternoon the next day, rode through the gates to find the entire pack waiting. Alpha Theron stood at the front with Luna Mira beside him. Both of them looked better, healthier. The curse was truly gone. When Theron saw his sons, something cracked in his expression. Relief, pure and unfiltered. He crossed the distance in 3 strides and pulled them both into an embrace so tight, it probably hurt. Luna Mira was crying, actually crying. She touched their faces like she couldn't believe they were real. "You're alive," Theron said. His voice was rough. "You're actually alive." "We're alive," Kael said, "because of her." The Alpha released his sons and turned to Celine. She was still on her horse, still covered in dried blood and ash, still holding herself together through sheer will. Theron stepped forward, and then, in front of the entire pack, he knelt again. This time, every wolf in the courtyard followed, hundreds of them, all kneeling, all showing respect to the Omega they'd mocked, the Nanny they'd dismissed, the Shadow Fang Alpha who'd saved them all. "Rise," Celine said, her voice carried across the silent courtyard. "Please, all of you, rise." They did, slowly, watching her. She dismounted, walked forward until she was standing in front of Alpha Theron. "The curse is broken. Marcus is dead. The Hollow King is sealed. Your pack is safe. Because of you," Theron said, "because of all of us. Your sons fought beside me. Your beta died protecting them. This wasn't one wolf saving a pack. This was a pack remembering what it means to be pack." Lunamira stepped forward. "Stay, please. We owe you everything. Name your price, name your terms, but stay." Celine looked around at the faces watching her, some confused, some grateful, some still suspicious, but all of them alive. All of them free from the corruption that had been slowly killing them. "I'll stay," she said, "for a while, until I know where I belong. But I'm not your nanny anymore, and I'm not your Omega. I'm an Alpha, and if I stay, it's as an equal, not as a servant." Theron nodded immediately. "Agreed. You'll have your own territory within Blackthorn, your own authority, your own wolves if any choose to follow you, and a seat at the council table, as an equal. And the heirs." Celine looked at Kyle and Ronan. "They're bound to me now. Pack bond. It's permanent. I can feel them. They can feel me. That doesn't go away." "Good," Lunamira said. "Maybe they'll finally learn what real leadership looks like." Kale smiled. "We're already learning." The crowd erupted, not in anger, in celebration. Wolves howling, warriors beating their chests. The sound rolled across the courtyard and into the forest beyond. A declaration, a promise. Blackthorn had survived, and it was stronger for it. The following weeks passed in a blur. Celine was given quarters in the main manor. Real quarters. A full suite with windows that actually closed and a bed that didn't creak and space to breathe. She barely used it. Spent most of her time outside, in the forest, in the training grounds, teaching. Kale and Ronan followed her everywhere, absorbed everything. They learned to fight without cruelty, to command without dominance, to lead by example instead of fear. And slowly, they stopped being arrogant children and started becoming the kind of alphas their father should have raised them to be. Other wolves started showing up too, young ones mostly, Omegas. Low-ranking wolves who'd spent their lives being told they didn't matter. They watched Celine, listened when she spoke, and when she offered to train anyone who wanted to learn, dozens volunteered. She taught them everything her father had taught her: how to stand your ground, how to take a hit and get back up, how to protect the wolves who couldn't protect themselves, how to be strong without being cruel. Alpha Theron watched it all from a distance, sometimes with pride, sometimes with something that looked like shame. He'd spent 20 years ruling through fear and brutality, and now his sons were learning a better way from the wolf he'd hit in front of the entire pack. One evening, he found Celine sitting on the manor steps watching the sunset. "May I join you?" he asked. She nodded. He sat. Neither of them spoke for a while. Just watched the light fade and the first stars appear. "I was wrong about you," he said finally. "About Omegas. About strength. About what it means to lead. I know. My sons worship you now. They talk about you constantly. Every decision they make, they ask themselves what you would do. That'll fade. Eventually they'll find their own way, become their own kind of leaders. Maybe." He paused. "Or maybe they'll become better leaders because they learned from someone who actually knew what strength was. Someone who survived 6 years alone and still chose to save the pack that destroyed hers." Celine looked at him. "I didn't do it for Blackthorn. I did it because it was the right thing to do. Because my father taught me that being alpha means protecting everyone, even your enemies, even the wolves who don't deserve it. Your father was a better alpha than I'll ever be. Maybe, but you're trying to be better now. That counts for something." Theron smiled. It was small, tired, but genuine. "I'm going to retire. In a few years. When Kyle and Ronan are ready. I'll step down, let them lead. And when I do, I want you to stay. Help them build something better than what I built. We'll see, Celine said. I'm not good at staying in one place for long. Then promise me you'll try. Just try. For them. They need you. She thought about it, about Kael and Ronan, about the pack bond humming beneath her skin, about the fact that for the first time in 6 years she wasn't alone, wasn't running, wasn't afraid. I'll try, she said. Shit. 3 months later, Selene stood in the ritual grounds again. Not the ones in Shadowfang. New ones, built in Blackthorn territory, smaller, simpler, but hers. Kael and Ronan stood beside her. Behind them, 24 wolves, young, eager, ready. They'd all chosen to follow her, to form a new pack under Blackthorn's protection. Not Shadowfang. That name died with her father, something new, something that honored the past without being haunted by it. She looked at each of them, saw the determination, the hope, the belief that maybe, just maybe, they could build something worth protecting. Being pack isn't about blood, she said. Her voice carried across the clearing. It's not about dominance or hierarchy or who's stronger. It's about choosing to stand with someone even when standing means risking everything. It's about getting back up when you fall, about protecting the wolves beside you even when they don't deserve it. About being better today than you were yesterday. She paused, let the word settle. I'm not your alpha because I'm the strongest. I'm your alpha because I choose to be. And you're my pack because you chose to follow. That choice is what makes us pack. Not magic, not tradition. Choice. And as long as we keep choosing each other, nothing can break us. The wolves howled. Long, loud, fierce. The sound echoed through the forest. And somewhere far away, maybe in the ruins of Shadowfang, maybe in the darkness beyond the sealed door, maybe in the memory of every wolf who'd ever stood their ground and refused to break, other wolves heard it, and they knew. The Alpha Queen had returned. Not as the last of Shadowfang, not as a survivor of tragedy, as something new, something forged in fire and blood, and the stubborn refusal to give up even when giving up was the smart choice. She was whole. She was pack. She was home. And that was worth every scar, every loss, every night spent alone wondering if survival was worth the cost. It was. Celine looked at Kael and Ronan, at the wolves who'd chosen to follow her, at the forest stretching out in every direction, at the future spread out before her like an open road. And for the first time in 6 years, she allowed herself to believe it was going to be okay. Not perfect, not easy, but okay. And sometimes, okay was enough. She took a breath, let it out slowly, and stepped forward into whatever came next, together with her pack, together with the twins who'd learned what real strength looked like by watching someone refuse to break, together with the memory of her father and her mother and everyone she'd lost along the way. Together, the way it was always meant to be.